Okay, welcome everybody to the next session in Lean Global Connection 2025. Let's see, all participants are in the line. Yeah, excellent. So welcome to everybody, and especially welcome very much to Professor Christoph Roser. In the last few years, he has been visiting plenty, not to say almost all automotive plants in Germany and Japan. And so today he will share some insights about his lessons learned with all these plants, and especially about where can you take some learnings for your operational excellence here. I mean, every one of you or of us is looking up to Toyota and looking like, what could we do to be as lean and as excellent as Toyota is? And just needless to say, or just one spoiler alert, it's not only Toyota. Also look up at BMW and see what they are doing. But first things first, let me introduce Professor Roser first. He is the Lean Global Network responsible for Germany. And he's a very, very seasoned lean expert. He's considered one of the top operational excellence thought leaders worldwide. And if we think about start with his career, how could it be? No surprise, he started at Toyota. Yeah, surprise, surprise. So there he was a senior researcher and was working in the Toyota labs for the development of lean manufacturing methodologies, especially in with the focus on bottleneck detection. And was there for all about 5 years before he went over to Europe again and was working for McKinsey Consulting. They did consulting projects in more than 200 companies all around Europe. And before, at the end, he finally now went into the academic direction. He is for pretty much almost 15 years now professor of the University of Applied Sciences in Karlsruhe, doing lean topics and lean production topics there. Yeah, Chris is author of several lean books, and he is the owner, together with me, of the All About Lean company. So some of you might know the All About Lean blog. That is just this year being reputed as the #1 lean manufacturing blog worldwide. So congratulations to this, Chris. And if there are any topics which you are struggling with on lean, have a look into the blog. You will pretty much find some solutions and some inspiration there. And if that's not sufficient, go and contact us. We are happy to give you some inspiration with consulting, coaching, or trainings on lean topics. But so much for Chris for the moment. So we will start with this presentation in a second. If you have any questions, which we have later on in question and answer section, just take the question and answer button down there and write your question down here. And for that's enough I have said now. Chris, the stage is now all yours. Let us know about your automotive plants insights.
Thank you very much, Jochen. Yes, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining. I see 143 attendees. That's amazing. And I want to talk to you about German and Japanese automotive plants. And I had a few years back the opportunity to spend half a year in Japan. And I used this to visit every major Japanese car maker. I visited plants from Toyota, I visited plants from Nissan, from Honda, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Subaru, and Suzuki. And I went to a total of 15 plants, many of them multiple times, to see how they work, to see the difference, to have a not only qualitative but also a quantitative comparison. What do they do similar? What do they do different? And a lot of really, really amazing plants, especially Toyota and Nissan, are really good. But Mazda is also very nice. So lots of good plants. And of course, the joy of traveling to Japan and enjoying the good food. So I liked this so much. So a few years later, I repeated that for Germany, Grand Tour of German Automotive. And here too, I visited all major car makers in Germany. I visited BMW in a couple of plants. I visited Daimler, including Mercedes, which is a passenger car group, and Daimler Trucks, which is by now a separate company. And as the name says, it's for trucks. I visited Volkswagen, a couple of Volkswagen main plants, but also their brands, Porsche plants and Audi plants. I also have been to Tesla, but unfortunately I can't talk about this because of a non-disclosure agreement. But here too, I visited around 15 different plants, and many of them also multiple times. Again, looking at qualitative and quantitative comparisons. How did it feel? How did it perform? And try to compare them. So altogether 30 plants, which is a lot. And I could talk an hour alone on the different plants, but we only have half an hour. So I'm not going to talk about the plants in specific plants, but I'll try to give you an overview of how the plants perform and also tell you what I think is a key difference and what is the difference between a good company and a truly excellent company. And in all of those plants I visited and many more, I tried to estimate the efficiency. I tried to measure directly on the shop floor what percentage of the time of the worker is value adding and what percentage of the time is waste, or as you may know it as muda. Simply by looking at the people and kind of seeing when I see a person, is it at the moment adding value or doing waste, and making some statistics. And here we have the comparison. All plants of different brands and companies, and within the plant also sometimes different lines, like a door assembly line, a dashboard assembly line, a final assembly line, looking at the percentage of value adding time in those plants. And of course, at the top here, we see Toyota. Almost 80% at the final assembly line at Tsutsumi of value adding time, only 20% of wasted time. That is outstanding. Also, the other Toyota plants are also pretty good and clearly outperforming the rest of the plants. Nissan was also doing very well. I like the Nissan plants too. And people often think it's something Japanese. It's something only the Japanese can do. But in Germany, BMW is also outstanding. BMW is on a similar performance like Toyota. I visited the plant in München. I visited the plant in Leipzig. And just recently I visited the plant in Dingolfing, which is not in the statistics, but it was similarly good. So BMW and Toyota are really, really good. Mazda is also good, and then comes all the rest with not bad, but not outstanding performance either. Exception being the plant in Dresden of Volkswagen, but that is a show and tell plant. It's designed to impress. It's not designed to be efficient, and it's not efficient at all, but it impresses very well. So I was looking at many different plants and many different lines, collecting not only impressions, I collected a lot of impressions too, but I collected hard data, and then I tried to analyze it. And the first analysis I did, I compared the efficiency versus the takt time. I had the takt time every how many seconds a car came out, ranging between, I think the fastest line were around 40 seconds, and the slowest line were around 12 minutes or so. And comparing this with the efficiency, with the percentage of value added time, and there was a very clear correlation. The faster you are, the better your performance. The slower you are, the worse your performance. Not quite a linear relation, but especially in the fast area, if you make your takt time 5 seconds faster, you can expect 1 percentage point of improvement in efficiency. So clearly faster lines have a benefit here. By the way, the graph on the left is just a normal graph. On the right, it's the very same data, but now with a logarithmic scale, where the scale here is 10, 100,000, 10,000. If you, in which case the curve is almost straight. And now I started to dig deeper. Can I see some, besides the takt time, can I see other reasons for the improvements? And for example, I looked at passenger cars and commercial vehicles. I had a couple of truck companies, I had a couple of passenger car companies and plants, and my expectation was that the commercial vehicles would be less efficient because they have often higher variance. But it turns out it makes no difference. If you factor in the speed, and commercial vehicle lines are often, not always, but often slower than car plants, then the performance is pretty much the same. There's pretty much no difference between a truck plant and a car plant at the same speed. That was interesting to me. I also compared if it's like a pre-assembly line and a final assembly line, if it's like a dashboard or axle or something like this, pre-assembly line versus final assembly line, also not much difference. But then I looked at an explicit comparison of German and Japanese plants. And there was a difference. A Japanese plant is roughly 10 percentage points more efficient than a German plant. That was surprising to me. And you see here the red dots for Japan being usually much higher than the blue dots for Germany. But not all of them. You see up here a few blue dots too, that's BMW, by the way. So there are some outstanding German plants too. It's just the majority is not outstanding. It's not a bad plant, by no means bad, but they're not peak performance. They could be better. And what I want to look at now is kind of here again, the overview of the entire performance. And again, BMW is outperforming, Toyota is outperforming. And the question is, how do we get there? How do we get our plant, or generally our production system, to the performance of Toyota or BMW, or also some other companies? A German tractor maker Fendt is also a very good. I don't have it in the statistic here, but it's also an extremely good production system. And what do they do different? What do they do different to get this kind of performance? And as you can clearly see, it's not something Japan versus Europe, because BMW does it in Europe too, and it probably would work all over the world. At one point, I want to make a grand tour of American automotive, but I didn't get around yet. But yeah, how do we get there? And I started to question that. Why are Toyota and BMW and a few select other non-automotive plants so really, really good? Why are they excelling? And to me, the answer is they have excellent work standards. Their work standards are much better than of the rest of the plants. I had a closer look, for example, at the BMW work standards, and they are really, really good, much more detailed, much better. The employees know this much better than the employees actually know the work standard. It's not just some document collecting dust, but it's actually used and worked on. So they have excellent work standards, which brought me to the next question. Why do Toyota and BMW have such excellent work standards? Why are those work standards so really, really good? Do they have a genius management department which just makes all those work standards? Nope. The answer is simple. It's often improved. Kaizen. They do it very, very frequently. Not necessarily big steps, but a lot of small improvements, a lot of little things, and that is happening very often. They do a lot of improvement. For example, at BMW, in average, every work standard is improved once per week. And once per week, that is a lot. So frequent improvement is the key to good work standards. Which brings up the next question. Why can Toyota and BMW improve their work standards so often? How do they get this frequent improvement cycle going? How do they do that? Because it is a lot of work. And here's the answer too. They're improved by the operators with a bit of support by their supervisors, but most changes, most improvements are done at the front lines. The managers are rarely involved, only if there's some bigger changes or they need some money or some equipment or some program or so, but most of the changes are done by the operators and the supervisors themselves. And it's often not big changes, it's just little stuff, but a lot of little stuff makes a big difference too. So improve it by the operators and their direct supervisors. Which is then the next question. why do operators at Toyota and BMW improve their work standards? Why do they do it so often? Simple. The supervisor require daily improvements. The supervisors requires the workers to do their daily improvement. In many other companies, improvement and idea generation is something add-on. You have an idea suggestion box, which nobody really uses. But here, it's part of their normal work. It's part of their everyday work to improve. It's not some special task which they can do if they feel like it or not if they don't. It is expected of them to do improvements of their work standards almost every day. So why do supervisors and Toyota and BMW require daily improvement? Why do the supervisors drive their workers to bring ideas almost every day to make the standards better almost every day? And here too, because they have their own work standards. The supervisors have a work standard, and part of this work standard is improving the workplaces with their operators. For example, at BMW, every supervisor has a list of 20 questions, and it has things like, is a material which is unmarked, are the kind of any colors which are not to standards in the markings, is the box filled correctly, that kind of stuff, and improve one workstation together with the operator. And every day they have to go to those 20 questions, and every day they have to improve one workstation with one of their operators. And not only once, they have to do these 20 questions 2 or 3 times every day. So big part of their work, 2 to 3 times every day, find an improvement, big or small, together with their operators. A supervisor usually has around 12 people underneath of him at BMW. So within 1 week, every operator has 1 round of improvement. So within 1 week, every standard is improved once. And that is a lot. You couldn't do this just with the manager. You couldn't just have the manager do this. They don't have the time. It takes too much time. It costs too much. Managers are more expensive. So they couldn't do it. But with the operators, they can do it. And that, for me, is the secret of how to become truly, truly excellent. By the way, did you notice that I sneaked a 5 why in there? So the 5 whys leads to having a standard for supervisor, and at BMW, they really do this regularly, similar at Toyota and also at Fendt. They regularly, on a daily basis, improve their assembly line with the operators and supervisors. You don't need an idea suggestion box because then you would have to write it down, and a lot of operators are not really good at writing, even if they speak the local language. But just explaining it to their supervisors, there's also less hurdle, because talking to someone with a necktie and a suit is something which is not so comfortable for them. But talking with their supervisor, which they work together with on a daily basis, is easy. It's faster because you don't have to involve management, because you don't have time anyway. So it is a possibility for a very fast and quick improvement, and that helps a lot. A bit of troubles I still have at BMW is that the operators are a bit, let's call it shy or hesitant, because on one side you have the manager with a necktie, with a suit, highly paid, with some academic titles, probably can do math, maybe even can do integrals. And on the other side, you have an operator which works 8 hours per day with the machine. And the operators somehow think the manager knows more about this machine than the operator. While in reality, as we all know, if you work with a machine for 8 hours, nobody knows as much about the machine as you do. And BMW and Toyota and some other selected companies are able to access this knowledge, leverage it, make it part of their daily work for improvement, and make it have a really, really fast improvement cycle. And with that, they become truly excellent. With that, they become very, very efficient, high percentage of value add. Similarly, very good quality, very good performance, little downtime, because they manage to have their operators improve their own workplaces as part of their regular daily work. Not anything add-on, not anything special, but it is expected of them on a regular basis to improve their workplaces. So for you, the idea is now to go out and see, how can you do this with your people too? Can you access the wisdom, the knowledge on the shop floor and have them improve their own workplace to also become excellent? It's not easy. It may have some resistance by the operators themselves, but it is doable. So with this, I close my slides or kind of my presentation part, and I'm now open for questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Christoph, for these excellent insights. And I must really say it's a super example for how the lean mindset has to work out. The improvements, the daily Kaizen, it must happen from the basis, from the people which really know what they're producing. But the lean mindset must be pulled from the top management. So if the CEO wants it, the middle manager wants it, and then the supervisor, and in the end, the operators want it. And I think Toyota and BMW have shown an excellent example of how this is really implemented in real life. So now, go into the question and answer section and give us some questions if you want to have some more inside details about what it's really about and how it's really done. Until you get started, one question to you, Christoph, or sorry, say something.
One question I just saw, somebody was asking me, where is the blog? It's here, it's allaboutlean.com. So that's my blog, and I have a long series about my grand tour of Japanese automotive, my grand tour of German automotive, and by now over 600 different blog posts. So you'll find a lot and a lot more on allaboutlean.com. So questions? Jochen?
Yeah, please write your questions in the question and answer session. It's not the chat section. It's a bit more right of it, a question and answer section. But there's one question about
the questions from the chat section.
Yeah, there's a question. Do we have any info on Chinese car manufacturing?
Unfortunately, I have not. I have not yet seen. Well, I've been to China. I've been to one or two car plants or car supplier plants in China, but I have not yet made a grand tour of Chinese automotive. One handicap is that they have a very murky privacy law, and if I do that, there's a non-zero risk of getting arrested for espionage. So I'm a little bit hesitant to go there, but of course it would be really interesting because China is catching up rapidly, and in some areas they seem to be already better than some of the German or rest of world plants, according to what I've heard. But I would love to see them, but for now I haven't been there yet.
Yeah. So one more question from Ketan. He asks, like, is that maybe a result of the people working at Toyota, so the Japanese especially, are known to have maybe a bit more discipline, and does BMW maybe hire people which have more that kind of discipline to follow these orders? Or is it just part of a, let's say, smart implementing of the lean mindset?
Well, you're right that Japanese people in generally are very group oriented, are very much following the law. And so there's a Japanese saying, the nails that sticks out gets hammered down. Compares this to an American saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So in Japan, if you stick out, it's not good. In America, if you stick out, you stick out in a positive way. So there is some difference, but they managed to do this at BMW too, and I'm pretty sure it can be done all over the world. And of course, it's partially hiring the right people, but I think the bigger part is having the right work culture, to having kind of the right mindset, and that one you can train and educate and coach your people on set. And BMW is still working with that. Some people still are hesitant to do that because they feel a little bit afraid to change something on the shop floor. Kind of, it's a $1 million machine, and they could change something. They're a little bit scared about that one. So there is a certain mindset challenge, but it is doable, and BMW is doing very well. It still sees potential to even improve it more in the mindset change, but it is doable regardless of culture, I believe.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, one more question from Gustavo. He's asking, what else are they doing to keep this standard up and performing and sustaining lean? Because that's one thought I also have. If you ask your operators, like, give me every day an improvement, give me every day an idea, after 2 or 3 days, they will say, like, yeah, I'm empty of ideas, no more left. I've improved as much as I can. How do they manage to get them everlasting doing Kaizen and improving even every next time? How do you keep up this motivation?
Sure. Sure, you sometimes have those empty improvements, like one day they move the trash can 2 meters to the left, and 2 days later they move it 2 meters to the right. You have those kind of things too. But if you work with a machine 8 hours per day, you will notice lots of little things. You will see problems, and you will think about how can we do this better, kind of to train them how to do this better. Granted, not every idea is stellar. Some ideas are just kind of because an idea is expected. A lot of ideas are small ideas, like 100, 200, 300 euros benefit. But if it costs almost nothing and you get 200 euros per year out of it, and you get this every week once, that makes a difference. So it does have potential, even with a lot of small ideas. And while not every idea may be great, and some ideas may be just to fill a checkbox, you still get a lot of beneficial ideas out of it. Okay.
Okay. One more question. Michel was asking, how is that documented? Are BMW and Toyota, the truly two leaders which we saw today, are using digital tools to manage their Gemba activities and the best practice sharing, or how they're doing it? And so maybe one from my side, when I was in a Toyota plant, it was, in comparison to other plants, full of documentation which showed improvements at every single small spot. And yeah, maybe give some more details about this, Chris, please.
Yeah, Toyota is famous for being paper-centric. They slowly start to use digital dashboards and similar stuff, but they still work a lot with paper. And coming from Toyota, I'm also a fan of working with papers because it's just so much easier to handle a pen and do something on papers than to do it digital. I've seen a lot of digital dashboards. A lot of them are clunky and cumbersome. Occasionally, I come across some which are good. For example, the Fendt plant I've seen had one of the best dashboards I've ever come across. And BMW also uses more digital dashboards, and they put in a lot of effort to make sure it works well. For example, out of those 20 questions I have, one question is there any part number visible on the dashboard? Because I don't want any part numbers. They're easy to confuse. I just want to have it easier to understand, so no part numbers on the dashboard. So it could work either way. It can be a good digital system. It can be a good paper system. It could also be a not good paper system, a not good digital system. But in my experience, if it's a not good paper system, it's easier to improve the paper system. It's much harder to improve the digital system because then you need programmers. You need to convey your ideas to the programmers. You need to make sure it's understood, which you often don't. So it's harder to improve a digital system, but there are good digital systems out there too. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. One more question from Luis. So he's asking, that is working fine because the people at BMW, at least, and Toyota, they are kind of forced into bringing their Kaizen improvements because the standard expects them to put in some improvements every day. Is it also possible or thinkable that you could implement this without having these pressing mandatory daily reporting, and how to implement it with the normal, let's say,
kind of
improvement
On
mindset?
a voluntary base. You don't force ideas, but you just sit back and expect them. It's also possible, but then you're at the typical German plant where you get an average like 0.1 ideas per employee a year compared to somewhere around 15 ideas per employee a year in Japan. So it is possible, but it will be much less ideas if you don't force it, or if you don't demand it by a standard. Maybe force is the wrong word. So I think with this, we are nearing to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much all for joining. I see a lot and lots of people. I saw lots of hearts popping up on the screen from you. So heart back to you. Thank you very much. Yes, exactly. Yes, and enjoy all the other presentations of this Lean Global Connection. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and how do we say in the Lean blog? And now go out and organize your industry, guys. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye-bye.